The morning sky above New York City turned dark as massive alien ships appeared without warning. People walking to work stopped and stared up at the giant vessels that blocked out the sun. The ships were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like black crystals floating in space, with sharp edges that caught the light and made them look like deadly daggers. Inside the largest ship, Ambassador Zethkalar looked down at the blue and green planet below. He was tall, much taller than any human, with 6 arms and eyes that looked like those of a giant insect. His eyes could see thousands of things at once, and right now they were all focused on Earth. He had done this many times before with other planets. It was always the same: show up with a big fleet, make demands, and watch the aliens surrender or die. Zethkalar pressed a button on his control panel. His message was sent to every radio, television, computer, and phone on Earth. His voice was cold and mechanical as it spoke in perfect English, having studied human languages for this moment. "People of Earth," the message began. "I am Ambassador Zethkalar of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been selected for integration into our great civilization. You have 36 of your hours to make a choice. Surrender all your weapons, shut down your military forces, and accept our rule. If you do this, your people will live as workers in our empire. If you refuse, your planet will be destroyed completely." To make sure humans understood he was serious, Zethkalar showed them pictures of other worlds. There was Kepler 442b, once home to a race of peaceful traders. Now it was nothing but glass and radiation. There was Proxima Centauri b, where a warrior species had fought back for 3 days. The planet was now a dead rock floating in space. 12 other worlds were shown, all of them empty and lifeless. "You have seen what happens to those who resist," Zethkalar continued. "The choice is yours. Surrender and live as our servants, or die as heroes. You have 36 hours. Deep underground in a secret military base in Colorado, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the alien message on a dozen screens at once. She was the head of Earth's Terran Defense Force, a job that most people thought was about defending against other humans. Around her, generals and admirals from every country on Earth sat at a large table, their faces showing fear and worry. "How many ships do we count?" asked General Rodriguez from Mexico. "Over 3,000, replied Colonel Kim from South Korea. "Each one is about 2 kilometers long. Our computers say each ship has enough firepower to destroy a major city." Admiral Chen looked at the numbers on her screen. 3,000 alien warships against Earth's few hundred military satellites and space stations. It should have been hopeless. Any reasonable person would start preparing for surrender or evacuation. But Admiral Chen was not worried. In fact, she was trying not to smile. "Ma'am," said Captain Williams, "what are your orders? Should we prepare the evacuation protocols?" Admiral Chen shook her head. "No evacuation. Send a message to all military units worldwide. Tell them to stand down and act normal. No special alerts, no emergency preparations. Business as usual." The other officers looked at each other with confusion. "Ma'am, with respect, shouldn't we be preparing for war or surrender?" asked General Petrov from Russia. "We are preparing," Admiral Chen said quietly. "Just not the way they expect." Meanwhile, President Martinez was in her office in Washington, D.C., meeting with the leaders of the world's major nations through video conference. The president of China looked worried. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was asking about evacuation plans. The president of Brazil wanted to know if they should try to negotiate. President Martinez listened to all of them, then held up her hand for quiet. "I understand everyone's concern," she said, "but I want you all to do something that might seem strange. I want you to go home, have dinner with your families, and act like this is just another day. Trust me on this." "But President Martinez," said the German Chancellor, "these aliens have destroyed entire civilizations. We need to take this seriously." President Martinez smiled the same way Admiral Chen had smiled. "Oh, we are taking this very seriously. We've been taking it seriously for a very long time. But right now, the best thing we can do is show these aliens that humans are not afraid." Around the world, strange things started happening. Instead of panic and fear, humans began making jokes about the invasion. Social media was filled with funny pictures of the alien ships with silly captions. Someone started selling t-shirts that said, "My planet got invaded and all I got was this stupid t-shirt." A pizza company in Italy offered free delivery to the alien ships if they wanted to try Earth food. In Japan, a game show host suggested that the aliens should compete in a game show to win the right to invade. In Australia, a group of surfers held a contest to see who could surf while the alien ships were overhead. In Brazil, someone organized a street party to welcome our new alien overlords with dancing and music. Zethkalar watched these human responses with growing confusion. His computers had studied the behavior of over 50 different species during first contact. They all followed predictable patterns: fear, anger, desperate attempts to fight or negotiate, or immediate surrender. But humans were doing none of these things. They were making jokes. "Computer, analyze human behavior patterns," Zethkalar ordered. "Analysis complete," the computer replied. "Human behavior does not match any known response to invasion threat. Psychological evaluation suggests either mass mental breakdown or extreme confidence based on unknown factors." Zethkalar's many eyes focused on the reports coming from Earth. Children were still going to school. Adults were still going to work. The stock market had actually gone up because people were buying shares in companies that made alien invasion merchandise. Sports games were still being played. Someone had even scheduled a baseball game for the day after the surrender deadline, selling tickets with the slogan, "Win or lose, we'll still have baseball." The most confusing part was the human military. Zethkalar's spy satellites watched Earth's military bases, expecting to see frantic activity. Instead, he saw soldiers playing cards, pilots washing their aircraft, and sailors painting their ships. It looked like they were getting ready for inspection, not war. "This makes no sense," Zethkalar said to his second-in-command, a reptilian being named Commander Sisk. "Every species shows fear when faced with overwhelming force. These humans act like we are not even a threat." Commander Sisk studied the data. "Perhaps they are simply too primitive to understand the danger, Ambassador." "No," Zethkalar said slowly. "I have seen primitive species before. They may not understand our technology, but they understand death. These humans understand exactly what we are threatening to do. They just do not seem to care." As the first day of the ultimatum ended, Zethkalar found himself in an unusual position. For the first time in his long career of conquering worlds, he was not sure what would happen next. Every other species had spent their final hours either preparing for war or begging for mercy. Humans were spending their final hours making pizza and planning weekend barbecues. The ambassador looked out at the small blue planet below and wondered if perhaps he was missing something important. Tomorrow would bring answers, but for the first time in his life, Zethkalar was not sure he would like what he learned. The second day brought more confusion for Ambassador Zethkalar and his fleet. He had expected to wake up to reports of human panic, desperate military preparations, or frantic attempts to contact other alien species for help. Instead, his intelligence officers brought him news that made no sense at all. "Ambassador," said Intelligence Officer Rek, a small gray alien with large black eyes. "The humans are still not acting according to any invasion response pattern we know." Zethkalar looked at the reports on his screen. In New York, people were lined up to buy coffee and newspapers just like any other day. The newspapers had headlines about the alien invasion, but they were mixed in with stories about sports scores and celebrity gossip. One newspaper headline read, "Aliens demand surrender, weather will be sunny." "What about their military?" Zethkalar asked. "Sir, this is the strangest part," Rek replied. "Their military bases are completely calm. We intercepted radio messages between their soldiers, and they were talking about weekend plans and vacation requests. One group of pilots was arguing about which restaurant to visit after work." Zethkalar's compound eyes focused on the intelligence reports. "Show me the communications." On his screen appeared transcripts of human military radio chatter from around the world. "Control, this is Fighter Squadron 7. We've completed our morning patrol. Request permission to land. Permission granted, Squadron 7. How did the new recruits do on their first flight?" "They did great, Control. Johnson managed to fly in formation without crashing into anyone. I think he's ready for advanced training next week." "Copy that. By the way, my wife is making barbecue this Saturday. You're all invited if you want to come." "Sounds good, Control. We'll bring the beer." Zethkalar stared at the transcript. They are discussing social gatherings while under threat of planetary destruction. "Are you certain this communication is authentic?" "Yes, sir," Rek confirmed. "We have intercepted thousands of similar conversations. The humans are acting as if we do not exist." Commander Sisk entered the control room, carrying more reports. "Ambassador, the situation gets stranger. Human news networks are broadcasting what they call alien invasion comedy shows. They are making entertainment about our ultimatum. Show me, Zeth Galar ordered. The main screen displayed a human television program. A man in a suit was standing behind a desk talking to an audience that was laughing loudly. So these aliens show up, the man said, and they give us 36 hours to surrender. 36 hours! I can't even get my cable company to fix my internet in 36 hours. And they want us to surrender our entire planet? I told my wife, honey, we better start packing. She said, why? I said, because apparently we're moving to space prison. She said, is the rent cheaper? The audience laughed even louder. Zethkalar did not understand what was funny. Computer, explain human laughter response to invasion threat, he commanded. Human laughter is a complex social behavior, the computer replied. It can indicate happiness, nervousness, social bonding, or psychological coping mechanism. Analysis suggests humans are using humor to reduce stress and maintain social unity during crisis. So they are afraid, Zethkalar said, feeling slightly relieved. They are just hiding their fear with this laughter behavior. Negative, Ambassador, Breck interrupted. Our psychological scanners show human stress levels are actually lower than their normal daily average. They are not hiding fear. They genuinely seem relaxed. This was impossible. Zethkalar had conquered 47 different worlds. Fear was universal. Every intelligent species understood the basic concept of death and extinction. Yet these humans seemed to view his ultimatum as some kind of entertainment. He decided to investigate further. Open a communication channel to their leader, he ordered. Within minutes, President Martinez appeared on his screen. She was sitting in what looked like a comfortable office, drinking something from a white cup. She smiled when she saw him. Good morning, Ambassador Zethkalar, she said politely. How are you enjoying your visit to our solar system? I am not visiting, Zethkalar replied sternly. I am here to accept your surrender or oversee your destruction. You have 18 hours remaining. Yes, we got your message, President Martinez said, taking another sip from her cup. Very dramatic presentation, by the way. The special effects with those destroyed planets were quite impressive. Our movie directors are taking notes. Those were not special effects, Zethkalar said, his voice rising. Those worlds are actually dead. We destroyed them when they refused our demands. I'm sure you did, President Martinez replied calmly. Coffee? Zethkalar stared at her. She was offering him a beverage while he threatened to destroy her planet. Do you not understand the situation? My fleet can reduce your world to ash and vapor. Oh, I understand perfectly, President Martinez said. You have 3,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. You've conquered 47 other worlds. You want us to surrender our weapons and become your servants. Did I miss anything? If you understand, then why are you not afraid? President Martinez paused as if thinking about the question seriously. You know, Ambassador, that's a very good question. Let me ask you one in return. Have you ever heard the old Earth saying about not poking a sleeping bear? I do not understand your reference to Earth animals. It means that sometimes the most dangerous thing is something that looks harmless, President Martinez explained. A bear looks cute and fuzzy when it's sleeping, but if you wake it up by poking it, you might discover that it has very big teeth. Zethkalar was quiet for a moment. Are you suggesting that humans are more dangerous than they appear? President Martinez smiled again. I'm not suggesting anything, Ambassador. I'm just mentioning an old saying. Would you like me to have some coffee sent up to your ship? We make excellent coffee here on Earth. The communication ended with President Martinez waving goodbye as if she had been talking to a friend instead of an alien conqueror. Zethkalar sat in his command chair, more confused than ever. Computer, analyze all intelligence on human military capability, he ordered. Analysis complete, the computer replied. Humans possess primitive nuclear weapons, basic spaceflight capability, and military technology approximately 200 years behind Galactic Council standard. Total military threat assessment, negligible. But if humans were so primitive and weak, why were they acting so confident? Zethkalar had seen this behavior only once before, during the conquest of the Vorthan Empire. The Vorthans had remained calm because they had a secret weapon that nearly destroyed his fleet. But intelligence scans showed no such weapon on Earth. As the day continued, the reports became even stranger. Human children were going to school and learning about alien biology. As if the invasion was just another subject to study, human workers were going to their jobs and making jokes about their new alien bosses. Someone had started a betting pool on which alien would be the first to try Earth pizza. The most confusing report came from the human military base called NORAD. Instead of battle preparations, the soldiers there were playing something called poker and discussing fishing trips. When one soldier won money from the others, he joked that he would use it to buy drinks for the aliens after they took over. "Sir," Commander Sisk said, entering the control room again, "I have been thinking about the human behavior. What is your theory?" Sethkalar asked. "Perhaps they have already accepted defeat but are trying to maintain dignity through humor. Many species use ritual behavior when facing extinction." Sethkalar considered this possibility. It made sense. Humans were facing overwhelming odds and certain destruction. Perhaps their jokes and casual behavior were simply their way of preparing for death with honor. It was not uncommon for species to develop strange customs when facing the end, but something still bothered him. In all his experience, condemned species showed signs of sadness or resignation. These humans did not seem sad or resigned. They seemed genuinely unconcerned, as if the threat to their planet was not real or not important. "Continue monitoring," he ordered. "I want to know everything these humans do in their final hours. Perhaps we can learn something useful about their psychology for future conquests." As night fell on Earth, Sethkalar looked down at the lights of human cities. They were still burning brightly. Humans were still living their normal lives. Somewhere down there, families were eating dinner together. Children were playing games. Adults were watching entertainment programs and laughing at jokes about alien invasion. For the first time in his long career, Sethkalar found himself wondering if maybe, just maybe, he was the one who did not understand the situation. The 36-hour deadline passed at exactly noon, Earth time. Ambassador Sethkalar had been expecting one of two things: either a desperate last-minute surrender from the humans, or panicked chaos as they realized their time was up. Instead, he received a polite message from President Martinez. "Dear Ambassador Sethkalar," the message began, "thank you for your generous offer to make Earth part of your empire. After careful consideration, we have decided to respectfully decline. We hope you understand that it's nothing personal. Earth is quite happy being independent, and we're not really looking for new management at this time. We wish you the best of luck with your other conquests. Sincerely, President Martinez, P.S. The offer for coffee is still open." Sethkalar read the message 3 times. The humans were politely refusing his ultimatum as if he had invited them to a social gathering they could not attend. This was beyond anything he had experienced before. Every other species had either begged for mercy or declared their intention to fight to the death. None had ever said no thank you like they were declining an invitation to dinner. "Computer, prepare weapon systems," Sethkalar ordered. "Target Earth's moon for demonstration bombardment." This was standard procedure. When a species refused to surrender, the Council would destroy something important but not critical, usually a moon or small satellite, to show they were serious. This almost always caused immediate surrender. No species wanted to watch their planet's moon turn into glowing debris. "Weapon systems online," the computer reported. "Moon target acquired. Ready to fire on your command." Sethkalar was about to give the order when his tactical officer, a blue-skinned being named Lieutenant Kix, called out in alarm. "Ambassador, something is happening in the asteroid belt." "What do you mean something is happening?" Sethkalar demanded. "The asteroids are moving, sir. Not drifting. Moving with purpose." Sethkalar looked at his tactical display. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter contained millions of pieces of rock and metal, most of them small and harmless. But now his sensors were showing something impossible. Hundreds of the larger asteroids were changing course, leaving their normal orbits and heading toward Earth's moon. "Computer, analyze asteroid movement patterns," he ordered. "Analysis indicates artificial propulsion systems," the computer replied. "The asteroids are under intelligent control." Before Sethkalar could process this information fully, his communications officer received an incoming message. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from Earth. It's from their Admiral Chen." Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen. She was wearing a military uniform and standing in what looked like a control room. Behind her, dozens of human officers were working at computer stations. She was smiling the same calm smile that President Martinez had shown. "Hello, Ambassador Sethkalar," Admiral Chen said pleasantly. I hope you don't mind, but we've decided to show you a little bit about Earth's actual military capabilities. We thought you might be interested. What are you doing with those asteroids? Zethkalar demanded. Oh, those aren't asteroids, Admiral Chen replied. Well, they used to be asteroids. About 70 years ago, we hollowed them out and turned them into something else. Computer, show him Ceres base. The screen changed to show what had once been the largest asteroid in the belt, but now it was clearly artificial. The rocky surface had been carved and shaped into a geometric pattern. Huge metal structures jutted out from the surface. Docking bays large enough for massive ships were cut deep into the rock. And along the surface, hundreds of weapon emplacements were rotating to point at Zethkalar's fleet. Ceres base is our flagship station, Admiral Chen continued. But it's not the only one. Computer, show him the full network. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of signals, all across the asteroid belt. What Zethkalar had assumed were simple rocks revealed themselves to be military installations. Each one was broadcasting targeting information and power signatures. The humans had turned the entire asteroid belt into a massive fortress. This is impossible, Zethkalar whispered. Our intelligence shows that humans have only basic spaceflight capability. Well, that's what we wanted you to think, Admiral Chen said cheerfully. You see, Ambassador, we've known about the Galactic Council for 73 years. We met some refugees from your previous conquest back in 1952. Nice people, the Keplerians. A few of them escaped before you glassed their planet. They told us all about you. Zethkalar's mind was racing. That is impossible. We destroyed all Keplerian ships. You destroyed all the ships you could find, Admiral Chen corrected. But the Keplerians were smart. They sent out hidden scout ships before you arrived. One of them made it to Earth. They told us that someday you would come for us too. The implications hit Zethkalar like a physical blow. You have been preparing for this invasion for 73 years? Every single day, Admiral Chen confirmed. We've been building, learning, and getting ready. The Keplerians taught us how your technology works. We reverse-engineered it, improved it, and mass-produced it. Every asteroid base you see has been under construction for decades. But our intelligence showed no sign of advanced military preparation. Zethkalar protested. Because we hid it, Admiral Chen said simply. We built everything in the asteroid belt, where you wouldn't think to look carefully. We used stealth technology based on your own designs. We made sure our planet looked primitive and harmless while we prepared our real defenses in space. Commander Sisk turned to Zethkalar with panic in his eyes. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the asteroid positions. They have weapons pointed at us. What kind of weapons? Zethkalar asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. Plasma cannons, kinetic railguns, and, sir, they have quantum torpedo launchers. Those weapons are more advanced than ours. Admiral Chen was still talking on the main screen. We didn't just copy your technology, Ambassador. We improved it. Humans are very good at taking something that works and making it work better. We've had 73 years to perfect your designs. Zethkalar looked at his tactical display again. His 3,000 ships were suddenly surrounded by over 800 asteroid fortresses, each one armed with weapons that could destroy multiple ships. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what was coming out of the asteroid bases. Ships were launching from hidden docking bays. Thousands of ships. They didn't look like anything Zethkalar had ever seen before. They were sleek and fast, moving in perfect formation. Each one was broadcasting a targeting signal that indicated it was ready to fight. Computer, identify ship types, Zethkalar ordered. Ship types unknown, the computer replied. Technology level appears to be beyond current database parameters. Beyond current parameters? Zethkalar repeated. That means we built something you've never seen before, Admiral Chen finished. We call them Defender-class ships. Each one is controlled by an artificial intelligence that can think and react faster than any organic pilot. They're designed specifically to fight Galactic Council vessels. As if to demonstrate, one of the human ships fired a single shot at a small asteroid. The asteroid, which was about the size of a building, simply vanished. It didn't explode or break apart. It just disappeared as if it had never existed. What was that weapon? Zethkalar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We call it a matter disruptor, Admiral Chen explained. It breaks apart the molecular bonds that hold matter together. Very effective against ships with heavy armor. Zethkalar realized that everything he had believed about this invasion was wrong. The humans were not primitive. They were not helpless. They had spent nearly a century preparing for this exact moment. And now his fleet, which had seemed overwhelmingly powerful, was surrounded and outgunned. "Why didn't you tell us you had these capabilities?" he asked. Admiral Chen's smile became even wider. "Because, Ambassador, we wanted to see what you would do when you thought we were helpless. We wanted to understand how you operate, how you think, and how you make decisions. We've been studying you just as carefully as you thought you were studying us. And what did you learn? We learned that the Galactic Council is very good at scaring primitive species, but you've never actually fought anyone who was ready for you. We learned that you rely on fear and overwhelming numbers rather than actual military strategy. And we learned that you always underestimate species that seem weaker than you." Zethkalar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their instruments with expressions of shock and disbelief. His mighty fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was now clearly outmatched by a species he had dismissed as primitive. "So what happens now?" he asked. Admiral Chen's expression became more serious. "Now, Ambassador, we're going to have a different kind of conversation. One between equals." The space around Earth became a deadly chess game played at impossible speeds. Admiral Chen had given Zethkalar exactly 1 hour to decide whether he wanted to negotiate or fight. The ambassador had chosen to fight, believing that even with their hidden technology, the humans could not possibly stand against 3,000 Council warships. He was wrong. The battle began when Zethkalar ordered his fleet to attack the asteroid fortresses. His plan was simple: destroy the human bases quickly with overwhelming firepower, then proceed with the planetary bombardment. It was the same strategy that had worked on 47 other worlds. But humans, as Zethkalar was learning, did not fight like other species. Instead of meeting his fleet head-on in a traditional space battle, the human ships scattered in all directions. They moved in small groups, never more than 5 ships together, and they moved faster than anything Zethkalar had ever seen. His targeting computers could not lock onto them. "Why can't we hit them?" Commander Sisk demanded. "Their ships are using some kind of advanced maneuvering system," Lieutenant Keeks reported. "They're changing direction and speed faster than our computers can calculate firing solutions." What Zethkalar didn't understand was that human ships were not controlled by single pilots making individual decisions. Every human vessel, from the smallest fighter to the largest fortress, was connected to a single network. They shared information instantly. What one ship saw, they all saw. What one ship learned, they all learned. When a Council ship fired at a human fighter, every other human ship immediately knew the exact range, power, and timing of that weapon. When the fighter dodged, the network recorded exactly how the Council weapon behaved. Within seconds, every human ship in the battle had updated its defensive programs. But the real surprise was how human weapons worked. The first Council ship to be destroyed was the heavy cruiser Dominant Force. It was hit by what appeared to be a small missile from a human fighter. The missile should have barely scratched the cruiser's shields. Instead, the entire ship simply broke apart as if it were made of paper. "What happened to the Dominant Force?" Zethkalar demanded. "Unknown, sir," his weapons officer replied. "The human projectile somehow caused a complete structural failure. The ship's armor and shields had no effect. The human missiles, as Zethkalar was about to learn, were not explosive weapons. They were smart weapons that could analyze a target's defenses and find the weakest points. Each missile carried a small computer that studied the target's shield frequency, armor composition, and structural design. Then it would hit exactly where the target was most vulnerable. As more Council ships were destroyed, Zethkalar began to understand that he was not fighting a primitive species with simple weapons. He was fighting a species that had studied Galactic Council technology for decades and built weapons specifically designed to defeat it. "Sir," Lieutenant Keeks called out, "the humans are using our own shield frequencies against us. Somehow their weapons are passing right through our defensive barriers. How is that possible? They must have captured Council technology and reverse-engineered our shield systems. They know exactly how our defenses work." The battle became even more confusing when human ships began working together in ways that seemed impossible. A group of 5 human fighters would attack a Council battleship from different directions, but they moved as if they were all controlled by a single mind. They never got in each other's way. They never fired at the same target unless it required multiple hits. They coordinated their attacks with perfect timing. Meanwhile, the asteroid fortresses were proving to be much more dangerous than Zethkalar had expected. Each fortress had enough firepower to destroy several Council ships, and they were protected by shields that seemed to be stronger than anything the Council had ever built. When Council ships tried to attack the fortresses directly, they discovered that the fortresses could share their shield power with each other. "Sir," Commander Sisk reported with growing panic, "when we attack one fortress, the others strengthen its defenses. It's like they're all connected." They were connected, though Zethkalar didn't understand how. The human network allowed every fortress and every ship to work as parts of a single, massive fighting machine. If one fortress was under attack, others could instantly redirect power to help defend it. If one area of space needed more firepower, ships from other areas could coordinate their attacks to provide it. But the most terrifying moment for Zethkalar came when he realized that the humans were learning from the battle while they fought. Early in the fight, human ships had been destroyed by Council plasma cannons, but as the battle continued, fewer and fewer human ships were being hit by the same weapons. The human ships were adapting their defenses in real time, learning how to avoid or deflect weapons they had never faced before. "Computer, analyze human defensive improvements," Zethkalar ordered. "Human ships are modifying their shield configurations every 2.3 minutes on average," the computer reported. "Each modification appears to be a response to observed Council weapon effectiveness. Recommendation: human fleet is learning faster than our tactical systems can adapt." The turning point came when the humans revealed their most advanced weapon. A single human ship, no larger than a Council fighter, approached Zethkalar's flagship. It moved slowly and deliberately, as if it were not afraid of the massive battleship's weapons. "Destroy that ship," Zethkalar ordered. His flagship fired every weapon it had at the small human vessel. Plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles all converged on the target. The human ship simply flew through the attack as if the weapons weren't there. "How did it survive?" Zethkalar demanded. "Sir," Lieutenant Kick said with disbelief, "I don't think it survived the attack. I think it ignored the attack." The human ship fired a single shot at Zethkalar's flagship. The shot looked like a small beam of white light, nothing that should have been dangerous to a ship with the most advanced shields and armor in the Council fleet. The beam passed through the flagship's shields as if they didn't exist. It passed through the armor as if it was made of air, and where it hit, it simply deleted a perfectly round hole straight through the entire ship. "Report," Zethkalar shouted as alarm sounded throughout his ship. "Sir, the human weapon created a molecular disruption field. It didn't destroy the ship's materials, it made them stop existing. We have a hole from the outer hull to the inner hull. No damage to the surrounding structure, but everything in the path of the beam is simply gone." Zethkalar stared at the tactical display. His fleet of 3,000 ships was being systematically destroyed by a force that numbered less than 2,000 vessels. But the humans were winning because they fought smarter, not harder. "Open a communication channel," he ordered finally. Admiral Chen appeared on his screen again, but now she was clearly in the middle of a battle. Behind her, human officers were coordinating the fight with calm efficiency. "Ready to talk now, Ambassador?" she asked. "How?" Zethkalar asked simply. "How is this possible? We told you we've been preparing for 73 years. But more than that, we've been preparing together. Every human ship out there is connected to every other human ship. We don't fight as individuals. We fight as one species with one mind and one goal." "And what is that goal?" Admiral Chen's expression became very serious. "To make sure that no species ever has to go through what the Keplerians and your other victims went through. We're going to stop you, Ambassador. Not just here, but everywhere. You cannot fight the entire Galactic Council. We have millions of ships across thousands of worlds." "No," Admiral Chen agreed. "We can't fight millions of ships, but we don't have to. We just have to fight you here and now, and show the rest of the galaxy that the Council can be defeated. Once other species see that you're not invincible, they'll start fighting back too." Zethkalar realized that the humans had planned this battle not just to defend Earth, but to inspire other species throughout the galaxy. They wanted other conquered worlds to see that resistance was possible. "What do you want?" he asked. "Right now, we want you to surrender your fleet," Admiral Chen replied. "Your ships will be placed under guard until we can arrange for you and your crews to return to Council space. In exchange, we'll let everyone live. And then what? Then we start talking about a better way for all species to get along." 3 months after the battle that would become known throughout the galaxy as the day Earth said no, Ambassador Zethkalar sat in a chair that was designed for human comfort, rather than his insectoid anatomy. The chair was in a conference room aboard a human space station called Unity, which had been built specifically for the peace negotiations that were now taking place. The station itself was a marvel that demonstrated human engineering philosophy. Rather than the cold, efficient designs favored by the Galactic Council, Unity was built to make visitors comfortable. Different sections had different atmospheric mixtures, gravity levels, and temperature controls to accommodate various alien species. There were recreation areas, gardens with plants from dozens of worlds, and even entertainment facilities. Zethkalar was no longer a conqueror. His fleet had surrendered after losing nearly half its ships to the Human Defense Network. He was now technically a prisoner of war, but the humans treated him more like a guest than a captive. They had given him comfortable quarters, excellent food, and unlimited access to Earth's libraries and entertainment systems. This was perhaps the most confusing thing about humans. They had defeated his fleet utterly, could have destroyed every council ship, but instead had offered mercy and hospitality. It was unprecedented in galactic history. "Good morning, Ambassador," President Martinez said as she entered the conference room. She was carrying 2 cups of the Earth beverage called coffee, and she offered one to him. "Thank you, President Martinez," Zethkalar replied, accepting the cup. Over the past 3 months, he had developed a fondness for coffee, though he still did not understand why humans seemed to consider it essential for all important meetings. "How are you feeling today?" President Martinez asked, settling into her own chair. "Confused as always," Zethkalar admitted. "I have been studying your species for 3 months now, and I still do not understand how you think." President Martinez smiled. "What confuses you the most?" "Everything," Zethkalar said. "You could have destroyed my fleet completely. You could have killed me and all my officers. You could have sent our ships back to Council space as wreckage to show your power. Instead, you invite us to dinner parties and ask our opinions about galactic politics. Would destroying your fleet have made the galaxy a better place?" President Martinez asked. Zethkalar considered the question. "It would have sent a clear message that Earth is not to be threatened." "We already sent that message when we won the battle," President Martinez pointed out. Destroying helpless ships after they surrendered would have sent a different message. It would have told the galaxy that humans are as cruel as the Council. This was the heart of what Zethkalar did not understand about humans. They were clearly capable of great violence. Their military technology was the most advanced he had ever seen. But they seemed to use that capability only when absolutely necessary. Once the threat was over, they immediately switched to what they called diplomacy. "Tell me about the other species," President Martinez said, changing the subject to the main purpose of today's meeting. Zethkalar activated a holographic display that showed a map of known galactic civilization. Red dots marked the 47 worlds that the Galactic Council had conquered. Blue dots showed the locations of Council homeworlds and major military bases. 12 species have already sent secret communications to your government, he reported. They want to know if humanity will help them rebel against Council rule. And what did we tell them? Admiral Chen told them that Earth would provide technical assistance and military advisors, but that each species would need to free itself. You cannot do it for them. President Martinez nodded. That's correct. Revolution only works when people fight for their own freedom. We can help, but we can't do it for them. This was another thing that confused Zethkalar. Humans had the military power to conquer the Council's empire themselves. They could become the new galactic rulers if they wanted. Instead, they were encouraging individual species to rebel and form their own governments. "Why do you not want to rule the galaxy yourself?" he asked. "Because ruling people who don't want to be ruled is both wrong and impractical," President Martinez replied. "The Council spent so much energy controlling conquered species that it never had time to actually improve anything. We want to build something better. What do you want to build?" President Martinez activated another holographic display. This one showed a different kind of galactic map. Instead of red and blue dots representing conquerors and conquered, it showed green lines connecting various worlds. "We want to build a network," she explained. "Species that trade with each other, share technology, and help each other solve problems. No empires, no conquerors, no subjects, just neighbors working together." "That sounds like chaos," Zethkalar said. "Without central authority, there will be conflicts, wars, competition for resources." There will be disagreements, President Martinez agreed. But there are ways to handle disagreements without conquest and slavery. Humans have learned this from our own history. Zethkalar had indeed studied human history during his captivity. It was a violent and chaotic story, full of wars, empires, and suffering. But somehow humans had eventually learned to cooperate on a global scale. They had formed a unified world government not through conquest, but through gradual agreement and compromise. Your own history shows that cooperation is possible, President Martinez continued. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we learned to work together. But we did learn. Other species can learn too. A soft chime indicated that other participants were arriving for the day's main meeting. The conference room doors opened to admit a group that would have been impossible to imagine just a few months ago. Admiral Chen entered first, followed by representatives from 6 different alien species. There was Kaliseth from the liberated world of New Kepleria, a graceful being with silver skin and large, gentle eyes. There was Gronk from the mining world of Titan's Heart, a massive creature covered in rocky plates. There was Dr. Whisper from the ocean world of Deep Blue, whose voice came through a translation device because her species communicated through sonic frequencies. Each of these beings had been subjects of the Galactic Council until very recently. Now they were free, and they were here to help plan the future of galactic civilization. Good morning, everyone, Admiral Chen said as the group settled around the conference table. Today we're going to discuss the proposal for the Galactic Cooperation Network. Dr. Whisper activated her translator. My people are very interested in this network concept. We have many questions about how it would work. The basic idea is simple, Admiral Chen explained. Instead of one species ruling others, we have voluntary cooperation between equals. Each species governs itself, but we share information, technology, and resources when it benefits everyone. Gronk's voice rumbled through the room. What about disputes? What happens when species disagree about trade or territory? We solve them the way humans learned to solve them, President Martinez answered. Through negotiation, mediation, and sometimes international courts. It's not perfect, but it's better than war, Kaliseth spoke in her musical voice. The Keplerians have a saying, a cage of gold is still a cage. We do not want to be ruled again even by benevolent rulers. We want to be free. That's exactly what we want too, Admiral Chen said. Earth doesn't want to rule anyone. We just want to be part of a galaxy where everyone can be free and safe. Over the next several hours, the group discussed the practical details of building a new kind of galactic civilization. They talked about trade agreements, defense pacts, technology sharing, and dispute resolution. It was slow, complicated work, but Zethkalar found himself fascinated by the process. These species were not being forced to cooperate. They were choosing to cooperate because they believed it would make their lives better. It was the exact opposite of how the Galactic Council had operated. As the day's meeting ended, Zethkalar found himself alone with President Martinez again. What will happen to the Council? He asked. That depends on the Council, President Martinez replied. Some Council species have already requested to join the cooperation network. Others are still trying to hold on to their empire. And some, like your own species, are thinking about what they want to do next. What do you think I should do? President Martinez was quiet for a moment, looking out the station's window at the stars beyond. I think you should go home and tell your people what you've learned here. Tell them about the humans who chose cooperation over conquest. Tell them about the species that chose freedom over security. Tell them that there's another way to live in this galaxy. And if they don't listen, then eventually they'll have to change anyway. Because the old way doesn't work anymore. Too many species have seen that the Council can be defeated. Too many have tasted freedom. You can't put that back in the bottle. Zethkalar nodded slowly. When will I be allowed to return home? Whenever you want, President Martinez said. You were never really a prisoner, Ambassador. You've been a guest, and guests are free to leave when they choose. This was perhaps the most shocking thing of all. The humans were simply going to let him go,